Should you be scared to buy a car on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, Hagerty, or any auto auction site right now? Classic car prices are all over the place, guys. What are your thoughts? We're going to talk about that, plus reconcile our predictions from the last episode, plus all new predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerds! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Yep, time for a brand new Bid Nerds. We are in the Container Park of downtown Las Vegas. It is Cinco de Mayo, and you guys might be able to tell it's really loud outside of the studio. You can hear it in San Francisco there, Michael Deeb. How about that?
Yeah. JP, you got a little bit of guacamole on your chest.
Yeah,
can you see that?
Yeah, a little sour cream action there, sure. Yeah,
no, I can literally, I was asking you before we went live, like, what is all that festival music outside? And you're like, it's Cinco de Mayo. And I'm like, oh God, look at the date. Like, I'm so deep into suburbia. It's so white outside my house that like they didn't even, I can't even smell Cinco de Mayo from my house. I'm way off the beaten path, but you are right in the epicenter of it. I'm surprised you don't have a Corona and a lime in hand.
I could be like Trump and have like a taco salad and be like, I love Mexico.
Who wants paper towels?
Oh man. There's a good little Mexican joint downstairs. Great tacos down there. I wish I could remember the name of the place, but anyways, all right. Welcome to a Cinco de Mayo episode of Bid Nerds. We are gonna go ahead and do this show. I guess people are hanging out. We've got the nerd herd is already ready to go. Timing doesn't matter as much as the content that I've enjoyed here. Oh, what a nice thing to say. We're a little late today. Sorry, guys.
Can we start with a disclaimer?
What's that?
All right, Randy B says, disclaimer for the week. There were a ton of herd bids last week, so I cannot guarantee that I grabbed them all. Randy, that just sounds like you're asking for us to start interviewing new people to take your job. What is going on? My
Randy,
fingers were going.
1 out of 2 Bid Nerd hosts love Randy.
My fingers were going as fast as possible. That's not the Randy we know and love. Holy moly.
Man, that's brutal.
There were a ton of bids last week. We couldn't keep up with them. See, here's the thing. Like, we can see 12 or 15 comments at a time, and the bids were longer than 15 comments deep. So I understand what Randy is going through. Randy, don't worry about it. We'll only read the ones you got, and if you didn't get your bid to Randy, that's on you, Herd. That's on you.
Well, we got the show started late because clearly I'm not wearing a fine Swiss watch today. If I were wearing a fine Swiss watch, it would have been serviced at Anthony's Our Smith's Fine Swiss Repair in Idaho. But just wearing this stupid plastic thing. I don't know what time it is, so we don't even know what time to start the show. But we got it going now. Shout out to our good friends at Godden Classic and Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. There's lots of stuff going on over there. They're opening a whole new store too. Down in Henderson. Exciting. Yeah.
That's under construction as we speak. Is that what's happening?
You should see that place. It is colossal. It is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. So,
is it bigger than the original in Enterprise or wherever they call that area?
Yeah, I think it's bigger than the original. It's supposedly going to be more geared towards service.
Yeah.
And it's like multiple. I think it's like 4 stories high, and they've got ramps. I mean, this thing is just massive, dude.
Oh man!
I thought it was gonna be this little dealership like up in Idaho. I don't know if you've ever been to the Porsche dealership up in Boise, but it's like a trailer, like a double wide and a couple of Taycans out front. But no, they are going full tilt in Henderson here over at Godden. But check that out. All right, let's see here. We made some predictions on the last episode. Some crazy results. I don't know if we should allow Buddha ever to come back to the show. He kind of whooped us, I think, on almost every bid, right?
I told him after the second result came in, which was the Friday result, I texted him with the result and let him know that I said, at this point, Buddha, I'm sorry that our friendship will have to end here and that you'll never be invited back to Bid Nerds ever ever again.
Wow.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing what he did, that ass whooping he put on us. Holy God almighty. You throw a guy a bone, and this is what he does. He beats you with it.
All right. Well, if you are new to the show, what we do here is we talk about listings that we find on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and P-Car Market, sometimes Hagerty Marketplace as well. We examine those listings. We analyze them. We talk all about. We give our opinions of the cars. Really, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Analyzing the listing is really. I mean, that's just. Can we call it analysis in any way? Really, it's just a couple of jerks talking about their opinions of cars, and we don't know anything. So
yeah, no, we just all we do is judge books by their cover. The analysis comes from the herd while we're doing it. And recently, like that, remember that Audi UR Quattro that either you or Carbine discovered was a salvage title in the middle of our giving bids on it. That changed our entire perspective on the car. And thus the results bore out that, we don't do any analysis. I think we need to redefine our description and mission statement. If somebody starts paying us, we'll analyze the hell out of these cars. But since nobody's paying us to do it, we just sort of throw it together at the last minute. It's like a salad surprise, you know?
All right. Well, what was the first car on the list last week? We had some kind of was it because we had weird cars? Is that why Buddha did so well?
For sure. That's what it is.
Why. We'll throw it on that.
Sure.
All right. What was the first car on the list?
All right, so it was a 2000 Isuzu Via-Cross on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMiro's site. I'm surprised if Doug DeMiro doesn't even own one of these things, because this car is just about as weird as he is, and that's saying something. Our car, JP, was up in Medford, Oregon, showing 68,500 miles. It was photographed in the rain on a dirt road, and it didn't get any cleaner from there. Our car looked like a used car. It was a teeny bit back a book. Via-Crosses don't bring a ton of money to begin with, but I thought maybe the low miles and the correct platform, we might see something happen. But as we sort of dug into this one and looked at the photos, none of us were really wowed by this particular example. As such, I started the bidding at $12,000. You took the under at $9,999, and Buddha split the difference at $11,000. Randy, thank you for shouting out. Randy did $11,250. Gerd at $14,600, which is high. Kevin at $12,500. Christian at $9,000. Buddha again at $11,000. Scott D at $14,900. Racer Nerd at $10,500 and Michael S at $13,000. So we're all pretty tightly packed. The low man was actually Christian at $9,000 and the high man was Gerd at $14,600. But our car did sell on Cars and Bids for just $11,300, meaning Buddha was the winner and just off of a Yahtzee by like $300. Although really, when you pan back, $300 on this listing could have been 3 bids. You know what I mean? So he might not have been that close at all. But that's a pretty good guess. And I don't think anybody in the herd would have been closer to him. Nope. Randy was at $11,250. So Randy missed a Yahtzee by $50. So give Randy his flowers. But Buddha got the win. At that point, I told Buddha, I texted him and I said, congratulations, you got your first win as a Bid Nerd guest host. And I said, it also might be the last time you get invited on the show. And that's where we started. So JP, really quickly, anything to read into that result? I mean, that's just all that car is worth, right?
Yeah, I mean, this thing belongs on a buy here, pay here lot. I mean, you just show up to some dealership and give them like $3,000, which is all they really bought it for, and they're gonna accept payments from you for as long as you pay it, and that's their profit until you eventually default on it, and then there's probably a low jack or some kind of transponder on there. They're gonna come and hook it, bring it back, and do it again to someone else. I mean, this is just garbage.
Who was that blowhard? Was it Doug the Bounty Hunter? What was that guy's name? It was on late night TV.
Dog the Bounty Hunter. Yeah.
Dog. Yeah. Does he come and get the car from you in the middle of the night?
Does he repo cars now? Probably. I mean, that seems like his jam, right?
Yeah. It just seems like it'd be right in his wheelhouse. He's standing on top of your double wide with a chainsaw, and he cuts a hole in the roof, and he goes, "Give me the keys."
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about at the opening of the show. Should you be scared to buy these crazy cars, right? The thing is, there's a countrywide shortage of repo men. There are way more repos then you can actually repo. There's just not enough repo guys to go out and hook all the cars that the banks want to get back. Like
that's funny.
We are at an all-time high. Like I don't know what the numbers are. Go watch Zach and Ray and Zach, Ray Shefska. We've had him on the show in the past over at Car Edge.
Shout out to Ray. He was a great guest.
Yeah. They always talk about that kind of stuff, like the highest percentage of delinquencies ever. There's more people that are 30 days. There are more people that are 60 days. There's more people that are 90 days late. Than have ever been ever in history. And so, if you're, if you've got a tow truck, boy, you could probably make some real money. But then the banks are getting these cars back and they don't know really what the heck to do with them because who the heck's buying them? The actual used car sales, the used car auction sites just aren't selling anything.
Let me ask you a quick question, JP. If somebody defaults on a loan and the bank sends one of these guys to go repossess the car, and then the bank puts it at auction or sells it to a company that goes and retails it, however that goes, does the repo show up on the title? Is that on the Carfax?
Yeah, so the car is repossessed, so that's one thing. That diminishes the value of the car, and then whatever the difference of what you owe and what the bank is able to recover is what you continue to owe. So, so if you let's say you owe $100,000. Okay, $100,000. You owe $100,000 in the car. The bank hooks it. They're able to $60,000. That $40,000 is
that
now
delta is
on
yours.
You. Yeah, so you're in big trouble if that happens. So there's a lot of people out there going, "Wow, what do you do if you're upside down on your car?" Do you sell it and pay? At this point, there's so many people that are so far upside down on the value of the car. If you bought a car in 2022, and financed it, chances are you're in a negative equity situation. So if you go to trade that car in on something else to try to get yourself out of a high payment, you're in for a rude awakening because you're going to find out that, you're however many $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 upside down on that car in negative equity. The dealerships and the banks, back in 2022, there's a term for it and it escapes me at the moment, but there's a ratio. Basically, the banks will lend up to, 125% of value?
110.
Well, they were going up to $1.25. Some lenders were going that high. Yeah, they were right. When money was just flowing, they're like, we have to get rid of this money. It's piling up so much. We have to just show who somebody has a pulse. Yeah, give them a loan, whatever. So that's what was going on for so long. And so a lot of these people, and you know how it is with luxury cars. We talk about it here all the time. Someone goes out and they buy a Maserati or an Aston Martin or an Audi or any EV thing, right? And it's like, holy cow, do those just depreciate massively. So somebody gets a loan for 110% of a vehicle that is now worth 50% of what it was a couple of years ago. You did not make that many payments in 2 years. Chances are all those loans were like 70-month or 72-month payments. So it is a mess. So what do you do if you have this car, you're upside down on it? You either have to basically commit to driving it to the end and driving it forever, just keep making that payment, or what do? You let them come and repo it. Well, that's going to screw your credit. If you want to trade it in, then you've got to come up with that huge amount of money. Are you better off a lot? Probably the best thing to do, and don't take our advice, this is kind of financial advice, but if you're in that boat, it's probably best to sell it and you can't afford it. Like if you can afford it, just keep making the payments and whatever. But if you can't, then you pretty much got to come up with that, sell it and pay the difference to the bank. Pay that delta. That hurts, right? And then you go try to get a loan on something that's very inexpensive, a $5,000-$10,000 car, because that's one thing in the used car market we're seeing is that $5,000 and $10,000, $20,000 or $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 cars are actually appreciating right now because there's so few of them that are halfway decent. If you've got a $5,000 to $15,000 car that's not a total pile of crap, you're going to be able to move that pretty quick because that's what everyone's trying to do.
We're using pretty dramatic like examples here with Aston Martins and Maseratis, but a lot of everyday people are getting hit with Audis and BMWs that are upside down. Bar
Ford trucks but $3 and
$7 and $10 and $14,000, and a lot of dealers that are still making loans for 110 or 120% will allow you to roll that negative equity into your next car payment. So in other words, you're buying a car that's listed for 50 grand. The dealer shows you a discount of like $4,000. So you think you're buying it for 46. Then they allow you to put $8,000 of negative equity on that car, and now you're taking a loan for $54,000. This is a Band-Aid for the problem. It is not healing the wound. You're just kicking the problem down the road. You better like that second car you're rolling the equity into, because but
that's the
you're
thing,
probably
is that no one's letting the banks aren't allowing these negative equity roll-ins anymore. That's what the 110 and 125% of value thing was, right?
Yeah.
It was because, okay, you've got a bunch of negative equity. Well, we'll give them that. We'll just roll it in. Now it's like 70% of value at best. So you got to have 30% down and no negative value. The only negative equity roll-ins that I've heard of was, oddly enough, like Alfa Romeo. Is
desperate
on
brands.
These desperate brands that have leases on, so you get a 4-year lease or a 2-year, 3-year lease on a whatever their Stelvio or whatever that stupid SUV they have. Yeah, 4-cylinder piece of junk. So you roll the negative equity into that. You have a big old payment, but at least at the end of the 3-year term, you're finally out of the woods and you can start from zero. But that's a big hit in there too. So. Boy,
and that's a huge payment for a poor car. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, woof.
But at least there's light at the end of that tunnel. If you have an expensive car that you are negative equity on, and it's only going to be worth nothing by the time you're done, and you've dumped all the, I don't know, whatever. It's here. The crazy thing, the thing that's relevant to what we opened up the show with is, who'd have thought that 2 years ago, sound financial advice would have been, don't buy a brand new Ford F-150, the best-selling vehicle in America,
right?
On credit. Do buy a 40-year-old air-cooled car for whatever it costs, and whatever it for, like almost no interest, right? And you'll be fine. That would have been the better financial advice. That's crazy. Those days are over though. So, interesting stuff. Let us know what you guys think of that scenario in the comments. Yeah, go ahead, Deeb.
That last little piece, just to frame it, you said about how some companies will allow you to roll some equity into a lease because they know that you're going to hold on to that car for the 3 years. What they're basically allowing you to do, if you qualify, is essentially finance your debt. I mean, that's all you're doing. You're financing your debt on top of the car payment. And it is a solution. It's a much better than financing it on a car for, as you were saying, JP, sometimes 5, 6, and 7 years. That's a bad idea because nobody wants to hold on to their car that long, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, people, we've been trained. We've been on this drug of low interest rates, artificially low interest rates for 20 years now or more. Interest rates have been, there's no reason interest rates should have been as low as they have been for as long. And that's really what's caused all this problem. Feds just keep printing money, keep giving money back, keep lowering these interest rates. And that's what has gotten everybody into these cycles of, we'll just keep rolling that debt, kicking that can down the road. But that's all their conversation. We are here to talk about the prices of cars on Cars and Bids P-Car Market. Bring a trailer. We did make some other predictions on the last episode. What was the other cars that we talked about real quick?
All right, JP, we pulled a 1992 Porsche 911 reimagined by Singer. This was, I believe, the San Diego Commission, which was a really cool car. And I think we decided this was probably an earlier car, having a 3.6 that was punched out to make like 380 horsepower. The car had about 10,000 miles on it, but they say true mileage unknown because Singer doesn't necessarily broadcast how many miles were on the car before they rebuilt it. What we can say is, if you're familiar with the Singer brand and their mantra, everything on this car is brand new, including the rebuilt motor and gearbox and driveline. So essentially, it doesn't matter what the mileage was on the previous donor car because every single aspect of the car and the chassis and the components have all been reworked or replaced by something new and tuned to be a performance car for the ages. Now, this car had previously sold on or previously listed on Bring It Trailer in looks like it was September of 2023, where the car was bid to $964,911. What was interesting, John, is that the person who's selling it now is different. So we think that while it didn't sell in September, it may have changed hands, and now the car has come back to market. So with that in mind, John, I thought this car would still do well because Singers are so rare and in such great demand, but I didn't think it would break $1 million. So I gave the bid of $992,000. Interestingly, you took the over at $999,964. About $7,000 or $8,000 over my bid. And Buddha took the under, and a strong under, at $900,000. And the question I don't remember us asking to Buddha when he gave us the low bid is if he thought it would sell for his number. And the reason why that's relevant is because our car did sell for just $925,000 on 26 bids. Now, JP, knowing that this guy had just bought the car for $964,000, and again, I'm not saying I can't envision a world where millionaires could afford to lose $40,000, but if you had told me at $964 that he bought it, that the bidding would stop at $925, I would have guessed a no sale. So it's interesting to see that this guy took the money. And of course, this is the conversation we'll never have answered for us, but I wonder why he did. Wouldn't you rather have this car than lose $40,000 on it? I would hang on to it. You would think, like us people that technically can't afford a car like this, we'd hang on to it forever because it's such a cool car. But this guy had it, and a few months later, he was willing to let it go at a loss. That is an interesting piece. So, JP, are you surprised by the hammer, and are you surprised by the sale at the low hammer? Two-part question for you. Our viewers would like to know your answer.
Yeah, I bid a lot more than this, but I believe I said that I'd be surprised if it gets much more than $1 million because we've been seeing these trade for at least low mileage ones in the 1.2, 1.3, 1.1. So the big question was how much of a pop would the relatively high miles, that 10,000 or so miles, would that actually cost you to drive this thing? And, this is one of those weird cars. We do this show and people ask me all the time, oh, did you see this car or that car or whatever on one of the auction sites? And I always forget the cars that we talk about, and I can't keep track. There's just too many, right? But this is one of those cars where everyone's been asking me all week. I've had so many offline conversations about this car, and it's tough for a mere mortal such as myself to really have an opinion on this thing because as a pure investment point of view, it makes sense that, okay, higher miles means it's not going to be worth as much. So maybe it's time to dip out of this car while it still has 10,000 miles isn't very many miles, right? But
right.
If they're usually going for, $200,000 or $300,000 more than what this one actually sold for, that means every mile you put on this car is going to cost you a lot. And when I say that, it's hard for us mere mortals to have an opinion on these, look, I've never driven one. I don't know anyone who's driven one. I know you haven't driven one, and I just can't imagine. I have driven, I was talking, of course, Rami was the first person that had a big conversation about this. He has a 993 RS, a Euro RS. He has a GT2 roof 993. So he has these amazing cars, right? And I just you drive those things, and I'm like, okay, these are $400,000, $500,000 cars. How much better could you get than these? If you pay twice as much, will you get twice the driving experience? And I don't know the answer to that. Would a Singer bring that? I don't know. I've seen them, but I've never. All the people on the interwebs yell about it, but they're all journalists and they're trying to get people to listen to them, or they're people that own one, and who the hell are they trying to convince, right? So I don't know. I guess until I actually get a chance to get behind one of the wheels of one of these and drive it and go, oh wow, that really is twice the driving experience. It really is that special. I just can't imagine feeling any more special than a 993 G2 roof. I can't. I mean, are there better cars? Sure, but it's like they're all going to be somewhere. I mean, whatever.
Well, look how smart Rami is, right? Because he can have that car and $500,000 in the bank rather than the price of this. Sorry, JP. Quick shout out to the herd. A lot of good bids that were all in that range. The highest bid was Andy at $1 million, but there were two, Matt and Brian, that both bid $950. That would be also $25,000 away. So those two plus Buddha, who is at $900 and $25,000 below, those three share the win. So good bids all around, JP. Well, anything else?
Chris answered the question that I didn't. He said I would take the $40K loss all day long and move on to the next. And that's kind of what I was getting at. So thank you, Chris. Yeah. Because look, at that point, okay, you had the car, you drove it. It wasn't twice the driving experience then. Okay, if you want the money, you're not going to do better. This is the top of the market right now. I mean, as far as the season, right? Maybe you'll do a little bit better right now in the middle of the summer or whatever, but not really. I mean, so everybody that wants this car kind of wants it right now. So, if you have enough money to spend $1 million or more on a car, a $40,000 loss is not a big loss. Move it, get that money moving for something else, and go. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of things you could do with almost $1 million. So yeah, I think the seller was smart, and it was we are seeing that sellers are having the Singer is a reimagined Porsche. Well, I feel like sellers are reimagining and re-understanding what the hell the market actually is, right? Yeah. It's time to face the music. That's what we said on the last episode. The shine is off. It's, these cars are still worth a lot of money. They still are great vehicles and probably decent investments long-term, but, it's not crazy, and it's not going to be, we're not going to see those crazy high numbers unless, and we have seen this, it's a car that is totally blue chip. If that exact same car had 100 miles, it'd be a whole different ball of wax, right? That car totally could have gotten 1.5, right? These things, if they have no miles, then it's a true investment piece. So, I kind of I'd like to see a $700,000 Singer, because then I could see someone like Rami getting it. That's probably about my only chance of being able to drive one. So let us know what you guys think of the results of this 10,000 mile high mileage Singer. Was that well bought? Did the seller get burned? Or was the seller the smartest guy in the room, letting that thing go to the next guy? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And there was one more car on the last episode. What do we got?
JP, we selected a 1987 Porsche 911 Carrera Targa. This is a G50 car. Our car was located in North Salem, New York, showing just 56,000 original miles. Grand Prix white with black partial leather. Now, it's interesting because this car was particularly low spec. No sports seats, no limited slip differential, no full leather interior. And then, interestingly, there was a minor damage report on the Carfax. Now, initially, despite the low spec, I thought this car might flirt with $100,000, but as we dug deep and looked and saw that there was basically, no particularly cool driving options on the car, and the fact that the car had something on the Carfax showing that it had been previously damaged and some things had to be repaired, we changed our tune, or at least I did at the last minute before we started the bidding. So, John, nice car. Certainly the right color and the right miles and the right gearbox, but it had a couple things going against it. With that in mind, I took my bid down from being like close to $100,000 to just $90,000. You still took the over at $95,911, and then Buddha took the under at $85,000. Thank you, Randy B. It looks like there were a lot of bids on this, so see if you can follow. Randy B's at $87,911, Anthony at $94,000, Chris at $84,800, Gerd at $86,500, Kevin at $100,000, Christian at $85,000, Buddha at $85,000, Scott D at $92,000, Vampire Bear at $86,000, Michael S at let's see, I can't quite read that. I think it's 93. Let's see, Racer Nerd at 89.7, Andy at 89, Matt at 95, Brian at 88, and Indy Dave at 92. JP, Randy had to make 2 posts to get all those bids in. That's a lot of people watching the show. Shout out to the herd. I'm up to here. That's really cool. That's pretty damn awesome. So all of you are wrong. It does matter. I think the spec plays a part in it, but I think JP, maybe correct me if you disagree with this, but I think you'll agree. The minor Carfax is what held this back. Look, Targas aren't the most loved G bodies. Coupes are. Sorry, it's just the way it goes. Targas are second place, and Cabriolets are just underneath them. But this Targa in that colorway would have shown better if it had a perfect Carfax, and it didn't. It doesn't matter that whatever the incident was in that car's history could truly have been insignificant. It shows up on the Carfax, and it's a GD scarlet letter, and it sucks. I feel terrible for the seller of this car because, again, when you look at that car, anybody who sees it at a car show won't see the Carfax, but when it goes to trade hands, it holds the value back. And, John, we've debated this back and forth a million times. Should it matter or shouldn't it matter? It doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the results are. And I think that this result at $77,444, I think that is the result of a bad Carfax. And that's just kind of a bummer. So 77,444. Buddha was at 85. I'm looking really quickly. Was anybody below Buddha? I don't see it, John. I think he's the winner no matter what. Everybody was above Buddha. Which is interesting. So with all those bids, nobody was below Buddha. So Buddha won this one outright, sealing his fate to never be on the show again. But what do you think, JP? Do you think it was something more than the Carfax here? Because it looked like a really nice car. And I just don't think 77 is fair. I think that car should run more.
No, I don't think the Carfax had anything to do with it. I think this
really?
I think that's pure, totally unadulterated rubbish. I think it's just the fact that it's a Targa. It's an 87 Targa. It brought almost $80,000. Yes, I bid way more than that. But you are right, is that coupes are all anything anybody wants. People do not pay for Targas. People do not pay for cabs. They just don't. And if this were a coupe, that Carfax would not have mattered at all. And I think our numbers were commensurate with a coupe bid, not a cab bid. Could you say that maybe, if the Carfax affected it at all, it was like a few grand. But these days, if it were a salvage title, that would be a different story. So it just makes me, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard when you say bad Carfax. It's not a god dang bad Carfax, not a bad title. It's just, it has a damage report. And it was back in 2015 when these cars were worth something. So, but it didn't get totaled. So, all right.
It's minor.
It was a minor.
No airbag.
Whatever. So I just don't think it matters. I think it's just the fact that Targas don't bring the money, and neither do cabs, and cabriophobes are, look, it's cabriophobes. That's what it's, bunch of Nazi swastika waving cabriophobes out there. They're just bigots against drop tops. That's all there's to it.
4 cars in, and you're already going. You're flirting with a what is it? What's the Holocaust joke? You're flirting with a Holocaust joke. So listen. You said something that I want to contest for the sake of the show. You said that our bids were closer to what this would have been for a coupe, and I disagree with that. I think if this car were a coupe with the miles and the Carfax report being the same, I still think this car would have been over $100,000. I think it would have brought more than 30% more or whatever.
Okay. We are talking about apples and oranges here, and maybe a coupe would have brought that much more, but I think it still doesn't matter the fact that the cabriophobes won't pay the big money for Targas. We just haven't seen Targas bring that kind of money. Even like 964s, which everybody in the world wants, even 964 Targas don't bring any money. And trust me, I've been watching.
People are starting to ask crazy money for them too. There's like
they're asking, but they aren't getting it. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like if you have a Targa, you do not have a coupe. It's just that simple. And I would, from a 964 point of view, I'd way way rather have a Targa than a coupe or a cab.
Man, you should have bought that white one. Remember that white one you were looking at? The lady was selling it for her dead husband.
Oh God, don't even bring that one up. That just ticks me
Oh,
off.
man.
That was one of those situations. I found an awesome car that was way before everything got crazy. The price was so low, and I got one of those. It was out of state, so I paid for a PPI, and usually you got to recommend that people get a pre-purchase inspection before you buy something like that. But this guy the mechanic ished all over it and made it sound like it was terrible. So he scared me away from it, and I'm thinking back going, that was freaking stupid. None of the things he was talking about were that big a deal. But anyways, what do you guys think of the results of this Targa? Was that because of the mark on the Carfax? Should this car have brought way, way more, or is this reflective of what I was talking about at the top of the show? You should be scared of buying a classic car right now because the values are going down, down, down. Or is it just that cabriophobes won't pay the money for a Porsche that has a roof coming off of it? Let us know in the comments below, and let's go ahead and go to a quick break, and we will be right back. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. If you don't subscribe to Bid Nerds on YouTube right now, I'm gonna shoot this 997. If you said, wait, that's a 996, you're a nerd. So subscribe to the new YouTube channel, Bid Nerds. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, we are back. Okay. Anthony is in here going, damn cabriolets are just not natural, and they're going to ruin the fabric of this great nation. There you go. He Anthony, is recruiting right now. You can show up to his house right now. Just bring some khaki pants, a blue button-down shirt, a full head smock, and a big old American flag with a, instead of the stars on it, make sure it has some kind of Aryan, type paraphernalia, and you'll be good to go.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, look, cabriophobe, what is it? The cabriophobe front army is taking over. There it is. All right. We have new predictions to make. Should you be scared of the market right now? Should you be terrified to buy a classic car on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer or P-Car Market or Hagerty? We have some interesting cars on our list tonight, and maybe we'll be able to answer those questions. The first car on the list is one that everybody loves. This car is always a crowd pleaser. Michael Deeb, what's the first one on the list?
All right, JP. Many of us love, even if we've never driven one, the E30 generation of the BMW M3. This is a car that really helped cement BMW's reputation in this country for making really cool cars. While these cars were across the Atlantic, winning touring car championships, all throughout Europe, certainly in Britain and in Germany, these cars were selling like hotcakes for several years right off the showroom floors. They made a car that I don't think was ever sold new in the United States, and this was among the last iterations of the E30 M3, and this is called the Sport Evolution. So where in place of the 2.3 liter double overhead cam inline four that I think initially made like 210 horsepower, this motor was punched out to 2.5 liter. And I think it benefited from individual throttle bodies, higher state of tune, yada, yada, yada. This car makes 238 horsepower and 177 pound-foot of torque. And then it's got, more sophisticated suspension, a little bit bigger wheels and tires, and an actual working, sophisticated aero package, deeper front air dam, and then a rear wing with like a little wicker board on the back that I think was adjustable to, turn up or turn down depending on what you wanted to do. Driving on the street, I don't think you would notice a difference. But if you're a real track guy, it might make something there. Only 600 examples were ever produced. They made a few of these cars in right-hand drive, but again, these cars were never slated for sale in the U.S. So the ones that are here are probably here on the 25-year exemption. And these cars are highly collectible because of the performance, because of the low production range. They came in two colors. I like the black because it's got this red trim integrated into the bumper. The other color is red. And most all the cars came with a gray, like suede seats with the seat centers were like a hurricane cloth, like a multicolor sport cloth, which is really cool. Our car, JP, is black and has a black leather interior. And I'm not 100% sure if that's original. It might have been an option. I don't know these cars quite well enough. But what I like about this car is that it's here in the United States in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's showing 48,000 kilometers, which is just 30,000 miles. That's pretty low miles for one of these cars. And it's here on a clean Wisconsin title. So you can get a loan and go buy this car, which is contrary to everything we just warned you about in the last segment. But this is JP, in my opinion, this is like a dream car. When I was still in high school, Road and Track did a thing about these three unobtainium cars, and it was the Mercedes Evo 2, the 190 Evo 2, the BMW Sport Evolution, and it was a Audi 90 with a 5-cylinder turbo engine. And these were three cars that you couldn't buy in the United States, but they were for sale in Europe. And every one of them was cool in its own right. But the best performing car on paper, based against the stopwatch, was this BMW. So this car has always been an overachiever. It punches way above its weight, and they've always brought serious money. So, John, our car is here. It's in a studio where they took some decent photographs of it. It's really neat specification. I don't know if I did enough justice to it. BBS wheels, and it's got a dog leg transmission, a get drag transmission, limited slip diff, and an aero package, and this high revving crazy motor. This is a noisy car. This is a car you really have to drive, and really have to really lean on it to get the performance out of it. But this is a car that was designed to take that kind of abuse. And every once in a while, that's a fun thing to do, at least for the weekend. So, JP, I lob it gently over to you. How much love would you have? I mean, look at this thing, JP. It's in your colorway right out of the gate. It's got black leather interior with red seatbelts, and it's all black. This car is you, my friend. So what do you think? Do you love it as much as I assume you would? Because this is a car I have been jonesing for since high school, since puberty. What do you think?
Of course, absolutely love this car. I've never driven the Evo version. I've driven the heck out of, regular E30 M3s, and they are just one of the greatest driving experiences ever. I'm sure this one is, here's the thing. People have been asking about updates on having been scammed on the last week on that Volkswagen thing, right? Just as a recap, I found $1,000 Volkswagen thing on Craigslist, and when I called the number, the guy had a copy of the title and pictures and everything, and he sounded like he knew he did know Volkswagens. Let's face it, he knew Volkswagens. He knew that I knew Volkswagens, and he knew how to talk to someone who was into classic cars. I'm like, look, I know I don't expect it to run for $1,000. He's like, it's all there, but it's going to need a bunch of work. So I'm like, fine. It was kind of far out of town. I offered him a couple $100 to hold it for me, because of course other people would be calling on it, and he really got the best of me by after having sent that couple $100 deposit, then an hour or so later he offers up, hey, I will put it on a trailer and I'll just bring it to you. But my dad doesn't want to give it up until you just pay the other $800, and he's just, just to make him happy. So I'm like, all right, fine. Right. This $1,000 threshold, I blew it off. And of course, ultimately it was a total scam, guys. I got completely ripped off by someone on Craigslist, and it's all because of a black M3. Everyone's going, how could you fall for that? How could you be so stupid? Well, I'll tell you, at least I want to say, what year is it right now? It's 2024, so probably 2005 or 10 or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. I was bombing around on Craigslist, and I found a car just like this one. It wasn't the Evo. It was a black on black E30 M3 listed, and it was like $5,000. Even back then, that was a $25,000 car, right? So I remember seeing that car going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I get a hold of the guy, and he's obviously getting all kinds of calls. he says, "Oh, hey, look, if you want this thing, I'm going to need a couple of grand as a deposit. Otherwise, I just got to move on to the next guy. I think I'm asking too little for it." And I was like, "No, I can't do that until I see it." And I passed, right? And I was like, "Man, I think this is a scam or something like that." Turns out the car was totally legit. It wound up at the local Volkswagen BMW dealership down the street. From me, one of the salespeople that I knew, the guy that was selling it brought the car there, and it was totally legit. If I had given the guy the $2,000, I could have gotten the car, right? So every now and then you're like, oh, I missed one that got away. It's like the upside. If I had thrown that $2,000, the upside of that would have been like 10, 15x, right? So, so when I threw the $1,000 on this stupid thing, it's like sometimes you're just like, But here's the update, guys. Okay, no, I haven't got my money back. I don't know how the hell I would possibly get my money back. But the crazy thing is there was like a couple days later, we saw another ad pop up on Craigslist for a Volkswagen bus. And I just trying to pull a picture up of it here, guys, but sorry. I guess it's not going to happen. I was going to show you a picture of it. The same guy, same kind of scammy type of...
Out of Arizona.
What's that? He was... adjacent to northern Arizona, or we like to call it NOAS, right? In Lake Havasu, Bullhead City, kind of area, Laughlin. But same exact BS. So I'm sending the phone number to everybody, trying to get everybody to call him and give him a hard time and maybe see if we could find him. But no luck, whatever. But just be careful out there, guys. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. This Evo looks like it is just brilliant, and yeah, I want it. But the really question is, I think these have priced out of what their value really should be. This car is a really cool ass car, but they're so goddamn expensive now at this point. I don't think it's worth the squeeze. There's a lot of other cars that would wind up on my list for this kind of money before this. What do you think it's going to bring, Deep?
All right, JP. So our car is currently at, let me read this to you, $147,000, and it closes tomorrow. And it closes tomorrow early. It's the first car scheduled to close tomorrow morning. And it's at $147,000. Again, it's in Elkhart Lake. It's on Briga Trailer, and it's got just 30,000 miles. There's only 600 of them, but there are a few for sale, and two of them are in the United States. One of the ones that's in the United States has like 60,000 miles, so it's got twice as many miles, and it's listed for $219,000 with the aforementioned hurricane cloth that I was talking about. However, JP, upon closer inspection of that car, I discovered that car, which is on the ground in the United States, is right-hand drive. So if a 60,000 mile example is listed for 220, basically it probably bring 200 grand if it sells. But it's right-hand drive. What would you pay to have half the miles and move the steering wheel over to the correct side of the car? So JP, I do think this car is going to do well at 147,000. It would not surprise us to see this car double in price in the final day. Theoretically, this car could bring 300 grand, and on paper, it should be worth it. I do think the market is a little soft. I don't know if I believe all the hype out there. So I'm going to give you $275,000 as a selling price, and the hammer tomorrow. We're going to make everybody, both the seller and the buyer, happy. At $275,000, I'd say it's maybe not stolen or very well bought, but I'd say that's maybe today's retail value for the car, even if the paper value is closer to 300. So 275 JP to you. I know you're going to take the under, but by how much will tell how much you disagree with me.
Yeah, I think these things are hyper soft. I just don't think anybody cares about the E30 anymore. I think it had its moment. I think BMW as a company has completely lost its way. Nobody wants any, there's no modern BMW that anybody gives an ish about. Nobody freaking cares. Yeah, they are the ugliest cars. I mean, Kia makes a better looking car. And that is hurting the value and the heritage of the great classic cars like the E30. They don't even call an M3 an M3 anymore. Now it's an M4 if you want the two-door version of whatever the heck that would be. It's just, look, there's just no lineage to these cars, and I think that's just hurting their heritage buyers.
Yeah. How bad is that decision for them to take the BMW M3 brand and throw it in the garbage so that they can make sense of their own nomenclature. Is that just like the stupidest marketing idea in the history of all time? Like, I can't believe the M3 is no longer a coupe. Like, that is the stupidest decision. And now whoever the new designer is with these big buck teeth in the front of the car, oh my God, it missed me with that shit.
It's just like, I mean, look, is it as dumb as Bud Light? Not quite, but it's getting there, right? I mean, yeah, it's BMW. They're just a bunch of idiots over there. But that doesn't change the fact that this is one of the greatest cars ever. Just right. $300,000, $200,000 for an E30 M3. Yeah, I'm sure it's way better than a regular E30 M3, but is it $100,000 or $150,000 more driving experience? Kind of like we were talking about the Singer. Could that really be twice as much of the driving experience? Not to me. I think this is purely a collector play, and I think the shine is off of these. I'm going to go $230,030. Is my bid. What do you guys think out there in the nerd herd? We got a bunch of bids on there. You guys are everyone's pretty as low as 205 from Randy and up to, I don't know if anybody else is any higher than that. Let's see, 255. Gerd's up there. He's closer to you, but yeah, I'm kind of splitting. Look, at 230, I would not be surprised if this car doesn't even break 200, honestly.
It's
and
possible.
At that point, it may not. Does it fail to sell? I don't know. That's going to be really interesting to see. And this is definitely, one of those canary in the coal mine situations, I think, right? Is this a car that kind of supports the idea that you should be scared of buying classic cars right now?
Right, which is why it was our thumb photo, which I thought was really good. It's interesting, JP. Again, 600 made. There's probably a couple dozen in the United States. If that black leather interior is an option and the rarer choice, it's possible that somebody would pay a full pop for this because of its rarity, the fact that it's titled in the U.S., and that it's an interesting spec car, being the black but with a different interior, an alternate interior choice. Because 9 out of 10 of these things has that cloth, which honestly, the cloth is probably pretty polarizing. It's very 90s, the cloth. You remember what the Superbikes looked like in 1990 with all their pink and green
Everything
and purple?
Looked like a jet ski, basically.
Yeah,
back then,
totally. Yeah, so the interior in this car looks like a jet ski. But this one, ours is black leather, and that might appeal to somebody, just again because they know so few of them are. So we'll see. Yeah, this will be a good one to good. Ready to move on whenever you are.
All right, let us know what you guys think this E30 Sport Evolution will bring. Bring a trailer, and let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
JP, we rarely do Corvettes, but man, if you want a lot of performance for a little money, Corvette is still your huckleberry. I'm telling you, this thing. I found a 2007 Chevrolet Corvette Z06 with just 23,000 miles in, at that time, Chevy's iconic Velocity yellow paint scheme. This car's got a 6-speed manual. It's a normally aspirated 7-liter V8 that makes like 507 horsepower or something crazy. This car actually revs to like 7,000 RPM, which is saying a lot compared to previous itinerations of the Corvette. The yellow is only iconic because as Chevrolet took this car to Le Mans and was attacking international racing with it, the Chevy racing team raced in yellow. So the yellow is kind of a, it's not a bespoke, but like it's an iconic colorway for the car. Now, our car's got low miles, but it does have some mods. And JP, you've heard me beat a dead horse with this thing, but this guy has the stock wheels for the car, but at the moment he's got a set of, and let me read it to you because he's proud of them, 20-inch Asante wheels. The factory wheels are included in the sale. Fool. Put the factory wheels on, and if you're going to include the Asantes, line them up, take a nice photo of them. But by putting the wheels on the car, I think you create a polarizing reaction to your car online, just like those taillights you were just showing us there in the photos. He blacked out the taillights. I just think a car like this would do better if it was put back to stock. You're the only one that liked those wheels on that car, and I think by leaving them on there, you narrow your field of appeal, and that's the incorrect tack to take if you're trying to sell your car for a profit or for the most amount of money possible. It's on Cars and Bids, and I don't have a problem with that, but leaving it with the wheels, I think is going to handicap him when the final results come down. A car like this, JP, on paper should be worth 40 grand. The market is soft. It's barely a $35,000 car today. And now it's on Cars and Bids. Again, I think it'll do well, but I don't think you're going to set a new high water mark for a Corvette Z06 on Doug DeMuro's site like you might if it was on Cars and Bids and had like really sexy photography, which it doesn't. So, John, nice car, mostly stock. It's really easy to put it back to normal, but I just feel like as people, as a society, right, we're just swiping now, right? Does it appeal to me or doesn't appeal to me? It's almost like fight or flight. Do I like it or do I hate it? Yay or nay? And at a glance with those wheels, when you might only have a split second to turn your potential buyer on to your listing, I think you're a fool for leaving the wheels on. And I'll keep saying that. So I like this car. I've always kind of wanted to own one. And again, even at $35,000, it's a ton of performance for the money. And because of the nature of the normally aspirated motor, JP, I would say even you would love to drive this car. Heck, if you like that R8 that you had, I think this thing would be nearly, it's not going to have the same quality of feel, but it's be nearly as big a kick in the pants. So I serve it to you. Do you agree with me about the wheels, or do you think it just doesn't matter? Or do you just, like, as you often do, get mad at the audience for not having the vision to see what the car would look like with the stock wheels back on? I love that they're included in the sale, but if you own them, even if you have to swap the tires, put them back on and move forward. But anyway, here we go, JP, to you.
Yeah, objects in mirror are dumber than they appear. That's what you can see right here. There's the guy's face. Definitely swap those wheels out with if you have the stock wheels. What are you doing? That's absolutely. Now, look, that doesn't mean that
I just want to buy the tires.
Yeah, have you driven one of these things? So that's. Yeah. I mean that's. Yeah. See, I mean, they are crazy fast and they are terribly, terribly fun. There's no denying that an American muscle car like this. I mean, this is just a hoot to drive around. I think Anthony was saying it. It's they're like Harleys. They're fun, but you don't want to be associated with the people that own them because they are just the worst. And but back to the actual driving experience of these cars, as fast as they are and as fun as they are to drive, they are not fun to drive in any kind of performance sense. They're fun to hoon. Right? Do some donuts, throw the tail out and everything like that. But trying to go fast and trying to drive around a corner or just driving around, I mean, like, if you've ever driven any generation of Corvette, they just, that fiberglass body is just like barely on the thing. You start getting above 80, 90, 100 miles an hour and everything's like flexing and moving around. It's like, what is that going to come off? And you start to really have anxiety about stuff like that. They're creaking, they're rattling, they're doing all these things. I haven't gotten a chance to drive the new C8 yet. People say it's much better, but they seem to say that about every stupid generation of these things. The headlights are just now look, and I don't even blame Chevrolet for how stupid this headlight looks, because this is what everyone is. Even Ferrari was doing this thing in this era. The 360s and 430s had this shape that kind of makes sense for a headlight, but then they put these like little bug type roundo things inside that just doesn't make any sense. And it's color matched to the body. It's just the most, I think if somebody made some kind of aftermarket replacements for those that looked like an actual headlight, it would drastically improve the look of this car. Yeah, a lot of fun, but this is Boomer Chum, and I don't think any of those guys have a bunch of extra money, disposable income at this point. They're all kind of worried about their retirement and what's going on. There are a lot of people that would want this car, kind of trying to figure out how the hell they're going to, pay for that new knee. So what's this thing going to bring?
Sorry. All right, JP. Our car, again, is listed in, I'm sorry, I didn't even say earlier, Downsville, Louisiana, showing 23,000 miles, C6 Corvette, few very minor modifications. Doesn't close for another day. So, that's always, let me just read this really quick, JP, because I have it written down here. So it's going to close 2 days from now. The way they list, they say closes in a day, but it's only because it's midnight at the timeline. So anyway, our car is currently at $26,000 on a respectable 21 bids. So it is getting some action, but I don't think it's going to go very much further, JP. I'm going to give you $30,006, where I suspect it may not sell at my number. Again, on paper, this car should be worth in the high 30s, but I don't see that happening here at all. I struggled. I wanted to give it 32, but I just don't know, man. I think the bidding is going to dry up on this pretty fast. We don't see a lot of fury at the end, and there's only a few days left. So $4,000 more from where it's at. $30,006 is my bid to you, JP. Higher or lower?
Yeah, dude, they should have called you. This car belongs on Hagerty. This car belongs on
It does.
something
I
other than
I could get
Cars and
35
Bids.
for that.
Yeah, I
sure.
believe you could. And I don't think it's going to break 30, and I think you're right. I think it's going to FTS. I think the guy owns this thing. He's got that green Camaro in the back. He knows what he's got. He's got that Z06, and he thinks it's worth. This guy is not having a come to Jesus moment until he meets Jesus in a couple of weeks, because it's. There's not a chance, especially with those terrible wheels. Anybody that does want this car wants it stock. So I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna park it right under your at 30,000.
All right.
And
So you're taking the under.
Yeah, because there's not much of a from where it's at. I don't think it goes any much further, but I do think it is a $35,000 car on a different platform. I don't even think BAT is better for this thing. I think straight up
Hagerty would be
the place to go, or a Hemmings.
So check out. That. Check out the bids, JP. The herd likes it. So Kevin's at 40. I've got Brian at 32, which is where I started. Gerd's at 41. Gerd, you should buy it, man. I think at 41 you can have it. Let's see. 996 headlights look better. Thank you, Kevin. I agree. Let's see. Carbine's at 31.5. That's right there. Somebody at How S is lower, 29,345. Kevin says, I'm changing my bid to 30,000 and a no sale. Let me see if I missed any here. Were there some early? Oh, there are.
I mean, for real, Deep. Okay. But how many people, for real, under 40 years old? Anyone under 40 years old buying this car? Any chance in hell?
I think so, because the kids know it's got a stonking V8, 6-speed manual, rear-wheel drive, and it's light.
When have you seen a 30-something-year-old driving a Corvette anywhere? Yeah, they know these things, but they don't buy them. Have you ever been to a car? I've never.
I don't hang out where Corvettes hang out, but I would think in Sacramento, which is as redneck as it comes, like 45 an hour and a half from me, I would think there's kids whose parents would let them hey, buy whatever you want for under 40 grand. Sure. They go buy this car.
Are they on Cars and Bids? I feel like the Cars and Bids crowd
no,
that's
a good point
type thing.
Yeah. You're right. You're very right about that. This is then by that rationale, JP, that's the wrong platform for the car. But you said that. I do think that if they put the stock wheels back on and put it on Hagerty, some boomer would buy this car and be like, dude, a C7 with 23,000 miles in yellow? Yeah. Bam. And it's $36,000 and you just made $6,000.
Is 23,000 miles high miles on this car? Because, you got to figure there's there are thousands of these in garages all over America that have 10,000 miles on them that haven't been seen in 10 years. There's a good jillion of these out there.
But of the ones that are in the market right now, I would say this is on the lower side of the mileage spectrum. And to me, 23,000 is an attractive number. It's been driven, but it's still really young. So, it's like a college girl.
There are a lot of young people, like the Z generation types, and I don't know if alphas are driving cars yet, but like the Z kids are buying the 80s and 90s ones, like C4s. That's kind of popular. Shout out to my friend Leaf. I don't know if he's watching tonight. His son Kaysen bought himself like an 87.
Yes.
So that's cool. He's keeping it alive. He bought it out of tragic, but whatever. Not everyone's perfect. All right. What do you guys think this little? What's that?
There's some more bids on this. Do you want to read those out real quick? Does it matter?
Yeah. So,
all right. We'll read them at the end. We'll read them at the end. Thank you, Randy, for collecting those bids. We appreciate it. We'll get to them when we cover it in a couple days.
Let us know what you guys think this Z06 will bring. And got one more car to make a prediction on. Should you be scared of buying a classic car right now on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market? This last car, Chef knows how to find them. He digs through and he finds them. What did he bring us today?
All right, JP, this is what we call a soup sandwich because this don't work. All right, hear me out. Chef selected for us a car on Bring a Trailer that is a 1978 Porsche 911 SC Coupe that has been backdated to look like a long hood RSR. This car is replete with a twin plug 2.8 liter motor, which is a hot motor, and it's pure RSR style. Our car is listed on Bring a Trailer. It's an alumni car. We'll get to that in a second. It's located in Scottsdale, Arizona. The mileage is essentially 298 miles, true mileage unknown. But the big news, of course, is the twin plug 2.8 liter flat six, the 915 gearbox, limited slip differential, beautiful golf blue leather. It's got tan leatherette upholstery with really incredible fixed back seats, fiberglass hood, fenders, and RSR style bumpers, fiberglass ducktail deck lid. Gen V Dynamics ITB individual throttle body fuel injection system, coil on plug ignition, custom exhaust system with the stinger right out of the middle, 15-inch max light wheels, 964 specification brakes, iBox springs, adjustable Bilstein coilovers. It's like all the components there. Wevo shifter, Momo steering wheel, it's all there. Now, a little bit about this car's history. Back in August of 2023, our car sold for $107,000. After that, the car sold, let's see, am I doing this incorrectly? Yeah. A couple months later, the car sold a second time for $87,000 on Bring a Trailer. So in October of 23, it was resold for $87,000. So I'm guessing that maybe somebody didn't pay or something like that, or the guy bought it, took a loss, and moved on. Now, the person who bought it in October has since spent $52,000 at Patrick Motorsports of Phoenix, Arizona, to repair the front bumper, the electrical system, reinstalling the front suspension tray, relocating the oil cooler, revising the throttle body linkage, further modifications to the suspension and braking systems, and replacing the ignition switch, fuel tank, and assorted fuel and oil lines. All of that gives us the impression that the car was pretty damn ratty to begin with. So all that money was spent to bring the car up to snuff. And now from October to essentially April, May, 6-7 months later, the car is coming back to market with over $52,000 in receipts. John, you and I bat back and forth from time to time this idea that about whether or not a car is burnt, and if a car does or doesn't do well, how soon can you bring it back to market? Now, the normal thinking is that if you have receipts, you can bring it back to market and expect to get value for those receipts because you did the work. But in this case, I'm not so sure. This car is slightly polarizing to begin with because it's a modified car. It's a build. Builds generally appeal to a small percentage of the people that are into that style of car. And then this car traded hands twice in 2 months. And at the second hammer, it was a $20,000 loss. Represented like a 20% loss in the car. Now somebody is claiming to have spent $52,000 on the car to bring the car up to snuff. But the stuff that he spent money on makes it seem like it was a piece of junk when he bought it. So something just doesn't smell right here to me, JP. I feel like this car is brought back to market a little too fast for something that didn't smell right to begin with. And so despite the guy doing things in the right order of operation, he went to a reputable builder, he spent the money, he's got the receipts, and now it's all good. I'm just telling you, JP, I'm not buying it. I even if I was interested in this car, I wouldn't be interested in this car. So Chef picks these things, man. I don't know how he does it, but he picks these like broken birds. And this is as weird as anyone we've ever covered. And I'm super curious to see what the result is. So JP, before I hand it right back over to you, I want you to know this car doesn't close for another 3 days. At the moment, it's only got, I think, 7 bids. Yes, 7 bids. And it's at $70,000. Just to recap, it sold for $107,000 in September. And then, or in August, and then in October, it sold again for $87,000. He's got $52,000 into it. That takes you to 85, and then 50 will bring you to $135,000, right? Or 145. Somebody help me with the math. I don't see this guy getting his money back. I'll just tell you that up front before we even get to our bids. But I hand this over to you because Chef dropped it on our lap. I just think this guy's in for a world of hurt, JP. I don't see a scenario where he's getting his money out of this car. Do you?
Whew. Yeah, I don't. I mean, the Patrick Motorsports is like, that's the bee's knees. That's what you want. But I can't put my finger on it. This car has all the right stuff, but it looks weird. Is this a like wide angle lens? I'm looking at this listing, like the wheels don't fit in the.
They're 16s, JP. All these RSRs should be on 15s with an RSR finish. These are fake 16-inch Fuchs that have slightly deeper dishes, and they just don't look right. And I'm guessing they're 16s just by looking at them. I'll read while you continue to talk, but
yeah,
I don't.
The profile,
they're
the
wrong
tire, the
low
offset,
profile tire.
Everything is just like the curvature. Like the fenders don't look right to me. Like they're the wrong shape or something.
Because the real RSRs wouldn't have been built with fiberglass. So the fiberglass is an aftermarket
Oh
thing.
yeah, these are fiberglass fenders.
And my guess is, and what most people do, and they don't even realize they're doing it, is they go fiberglass because it's less expensive, and they go turbo. And the RSR has a slightly different cut to it. It's a different radius. And so when you go turbo fenders and then long hood, it doesn't look right because real RSRs have just a little bit different shape. So I think the aesthetic, you're picking that up with your eye and you're like, it doesn't look right. I'm like, well, because it's built incorrectly.
It's not right. Yeah. This has got to be a hell of a lot of fun to drive. I mean, I'm not afraid of this car. I don't hate this thing. I hate the seats. I want to rip those out and just sit on a bucket rather than be seen in those. They're just totally not period correct. Then that's where everything starts to go wrong there. You're like, what the heck was the builder thinking on this car? But everything under the hood looks pretty bad. The suspension components. It's interesting the tools this guy has on the wall over here. He has a bunch of power drills and hammers and
he does concrete too. Pours concrete.
Like an AR-15 up there and some kind of pistol, and so he's got a bunch of guns in his shop. Which hey, guns are fun, but it's just kind of a weird. Is he getting so ticked off at his cars sometimes that he's like, all right, I've got the perfect tool to fix this thing. It's to just take a bazooka to it sometimes. I know how that feels. I was messing with my headlights this morning on the back date. Yeah.
The AR-15, he also does gutters. So he can clear out your rain gutters with his gun.
Nice. This guy does have I'm really liking the other cars he has in here. Looks like he's got a 964 and a couple of GT3s and a really badass E36 M3. But yeah, I see why he wants out of this car. I don't know. I think this car represents probably a pretty darn good value for someone who wants a hot rod but doesn't want someone that wants that $150,000 look but doesn't want to pay $150,000. I don't think it's going to bring more than 100. What do you think this thing's going to bring?
All right, JP. So our car is at $70,000 and it closes in a few days. My initial reaction was that I thought it would only bring 100, and that's before I read that he had spent $52,000 on it with Patrick Motorsport. So I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. He gets this car for 87, which probably looks like a song because somebody had just bought it before him for 107. But then you find out it needs all this work. Am I going to accept a $50,000 estimate from Patrick Motorsport when I can take it to a mechanic and probably get all the same work done for half the price? Like it just doesn't make sense to me, JP. I don't know.
Get to work for half the price. That's crazy. I mean, that's where I think that goes off the rails because it's like, look, one thing we know is that it is crazy expensive to get stuff done right now. And if he spent the money on something from Patrick Motors, that's freaking great. That's the thing that makes this car
start running it.
Like here's a driving video. I haven't looked at this.
Sounds awesome.
That's what you want it to sound like. Yep.
Great.
So, okay, great. Moving on. I think that this represents a value if it can be bought at a decent price. But if I'm with you. There's no way he's getting his money. There's no way he's getting 150 grand. So why is he selling it? What the hell is going on? He's got the money at this point. You may as well try to work out the aesthetic kinks on it and make this car right and just love it. Clearly, he likes some cool performance cars. And this car does seem like the right car to have in his collection. He needs, something cool that's air cooled. He's already got it. He already spent the money. Why is he trying to get off of it? What's going on here, man? Is he afraid to own a classic car? Like, did he see our show and was like, I gotta get rid of this thing?
I think he fixed it up and he's hoping to flip it. I just don't think it's going to bring 150. So I'm going to give you $129,000 where I think it should sell because I think you got to get off of it. But I just don't see this guy making money on it. There's just a few things on this car that are off and it just doesn't quite work for me.
You think it should sell as in you think he ought
if he gets to 129, he should take the money. No, I think he should take the money.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking the difference. You said it should sell as in he should or as in it will at that number. If it reaches $120,000, do you think he says no or do you think he says yes?
Oh boy. I think he will. I think he'll
do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think this guy spent the money. I don't know why he would at this point take a $20,000, $30,000 bath at this point on a car like that. I'm going to go under. I'm going to park it at $110. I'm actually going to be. You know what? Can I change my bid? I'm not going to go over you, so it really doesn't matter. I'm going to make it easier on you. I'm going to say 99 911. I don't think it breaks 100. I think this car is
and then he's got a firm grip on it.
Yeah. It's his car. And I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think it's kind of a neat car, but love it, man, at this point. What do you guys think out there? It looks like we've got some some people are like Sergeant Tom's like 82. Boy. Kevin Bodeman, 50 grand. What? It's already higher than that, isn't it?
Wow. Yeah. So, boy, oh boy, a lot of low bids on this. Half the herd doesn't think it'll break 100, which is interesting. So nobody's giving him.
Fenders are a kiss of death, but it's got this amazing engine. I don't understand why you put that much money into it. Why he went to Patrick Motorsports and didn't just what did it need? A reseal or something? I don't know. Whatever. I'm kind of over this car. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. So come back on the next episode and we'll find out. Should you guys be scared to buy a classic car on Bring a Trailer? What do you think after watching this show? Are you more or less scared of the market? I don't know. After watching our own show, I'm kind of like terrified now. Anybody want to buy a couple of Porsches? I'm selling them all. Selling everything. Yeah. Selling it all. Yeah, guys, that's a show. We're going to dip on out of here, and we will be back on Wednesday. I think we might have a couple of guests because Mauricio, when does Mauricio's car sell or close?
It sells on Thursday, and it's slated. It's on the calendar for our Wednesday show because it closes on Thursday the 9th, and that's a really cool car.
Yeah. So I think we're probably going to have two guests in one, two sellers for the first time ever on Bid Nerds. We've got Mauricio talking about his...
Three-pedal posse.
Three-pedal posse, a 1974? What's that car?
Yep, it's a base 911 ordered with every single S option, and then Mauricio had the motor rebuilt by a guy named Jeff Hines to S specification. So this is a really cool slick top, Mexico blue, all original, S optioned 74 911 that he restored, and I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the best values for whatever it sells for. It's going to be one of the best values ever because it's a really cool car, JP.
Yeah, for sure. And then we're going to have, we'll also have in studio here, we'll have Andy. He's going to be selling his FJ Cruiser that we helped him take some cool photos of. And that
What platform is his
he
car
is on BAT. It closes on Saturday, this coming Saturday, a week from yesterday. And that is a 17,000 mile 2014 FJ Cruiser with a manual 6-speed. 4-wheel drive, full lockers. I mean, this is the tits McGee, man. If you wanted one car to last forever into the apocalypse and out the other side, that's the one. So I'm kind of jealous. I kind of wanted to maybe buy it from him, but that ain't happening. It's going to go for way too much money. So we will see you guys Wednesday night. Shout out to Godden Classic and also Our Smiths. If you're like going, hey, how do I know what time the show is on? It starts at 6:30 if we have our ish together. And so make sure your watch is, been serviced over there at Fine Swiss Repair at Our Smiths. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.
Get those words